Prabhupada ki.
Hare Krishna. So dear devotees, today we are very fortunate that we have amongst us Her Grace Sukhvaha Mataji. Mataji is Srila Prabhupada's disciple. At the age of 21 in 1975, she got initiated by Srila Prabhupada. Mataji has been interfaith minister as well in the year 1992 in the month of January. And in Barsana I Camp as well, Mataji is contributing very significantly. Mataji has also, she has led many of the seminars and workshops in various communities on compassionate communication, emotional healing and relationships, as well as engaging in one-on-one sessions. So dedicated to showing the profound yet simple power of emotional maturity, of choosing words carefully. Mataji has authored 3 books: Revealing the Heart, The Practice of Compassion; Finding the Gap, Some Truth About the Lies That We Tell Ourselves; and Entering the Gap, More Truth About Lies We Tell Ourselves. She has recently become the chaplain in training with Karuna, Compassion Care, and is also a member of HEARTS, Holistic Emotional Awareness, Relational Training and Support. Mataji is mother of 3 and grandmother of 3 and lives near Wheeling, West Virginia, in a house personally built by her children and herself. So that's really wonderful. And actually Mataji is making devotees' emotional maturity coming to the next level, because sometimes we are so busy becoming pure devotees that we forget to become good human beings. So although it is part of it, but that also requires training, and which is very subtle science. And that subtle science is so very well known to Mataji. She is so expert in taking care of that subtle aspect, that we also groom ourselves, of course as a devotee, and as well as very mature, emotionally mature human beings as well. Like Srila Prabhupada used to say, a devotee means perfect gentleman, but sometimes we do not act like a gentleman. So that is that's those subtle nuances of becoming mature in Krishna consciousness. Mataji is an expert, and we are so very expert that our wonderful mother has come to bless ISKCON Dwarka devotees. So we are really honored by Mataji's presence. As you can see, here are the books as well, and this is blessings of Sukhvaha Mataji. So it's a humble request to Mataji, in future also, whenever she is coming to Delhi, by default there is an invitation to ISKCON Dwarka. So please come and bless your children here. You will be waiting, always anxious to listen from you. Take your blessings, Mataji. So let's welcome Her Grace Sukhvaha Mataji by chanting Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. Her Grace Sukhvaha Mataji ki jai, Shri Prabhupada ki jai, Srimad Bhagavatam ki jai.
Is it this one or this one?
48, this one, this one, yes.
Thank you. You make it. Does that work? Okay. Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Jaya Gopi Janavallabha Girivanadari Jaya Gopi Janavallabha Girivanadari Yasodhanandana Brajajanaranjana Yasodhanandana Brajajanaranjana Jamunatira Banachari Jamunatira Banachari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare Hare Rama 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 Hare Hare Jai Jaya Prabhupada Jaya Srila Prabhupada Jaya Jaya Prabhupada Jaya Srila Prabhupada Jaya Jaya Gurudev Jaya Jaya Gurudev Jayom Vishnupad Paramahamsa Padavarchikacharya Dr. Sri Sri Srimad Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada Ki Ananta Kota Vaishnava Vrinda Ki Namachari Srila Haridas Thakur Ki Jai Prem Sikho Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shri Vasadi Gaur Bhakti Vrinda Ki Jai Shri Shri Radha Krishna Gopi Gopinath Shamakunda Radhakunda Giri Govardhan Ki Jai Shri Vrindavan Dham Ki Jai Navadvip Dham Ki Jai Ganga Mai Ki Jai Jamuna Mai Ki Jai Tulsi Devi Ki Jai Bhakti Devi Ki Jai Samaveda Bhakti Vrinda Ki Jai Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai Nitai Gaur Premanandi All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to the lotus feet of Shri Shri Guru and Shri Guranga. All glories to Shri Prabhupada. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Thank you all for coming to Srimad Bhagavatam class this morning. Today we'll be reading from Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 3, Chapter 21, text number 48. This is the conversation between Manu and Kardama. Ato jatam upayatam Nridevam pranatam pura Saparyaya paryagrinat Pratinan jan nurupaya Atotajam upayatam Nirdevam pranatam pura Saparyaya paryat grinat Pratinan janurupaya Atotajam upayatam Pranatam pura Sapayaya paragritat Pratinandyanarupaya. Anybody else? Ladies? Any ladies want to try? Can I read 3 verses? Can I read 3 verses? Okay, thank you. Translation and purport by His Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada. Oh, sorry, word for word. Ata, then, Utajam, the hermitage. Upayatam, approached. Nirdevam, the monarch. Pranatam, bowed down. Pura, in front. Saparyaya, with honor. Prayagrihatnat, received him. Pratinandya, greeting him. Anurupaya, befitting the king's position. Translation and purport by His Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada. Seeing that the monarch had come to his hermitage, he was bowing before him. The sage greeted him with benediction and received him with due honor. Emperor Swayambhuva Manu, not only approached the cottage of dried leaves possessed by the hermit Kardama, but also offered respectful obeisances unto him. Similarly, it was the duty of the hermit to offer blessings to kings who used to approach his hermitage in the jungle. After receiving, translation, text 49, after receiving the sage's attention, the king sat down and was silent. Recalling the instructions of the Lord, Kardama then spoke to the king as follows, delighting him with sweet accents. Text 50, translation. The tour you have undertaken, O Lord, is surely intended to protect the virtuous and kill the demons, since you embody the protecting energy of Sri Hari. Purport. It appears from Vedic literatures, especially histories like Srimad Bhagavatam and the Puranas, that the pious kings of old used to tour their kingdoms in order to give protection to the pious citizens and to chastise or kill the impious. Sometimes they used to kill animals in the forests to practice the art of killing, the killing art, because without such practice, they would not be able to kill the undesirable elements. Kshatriyas are allowed to commit violence in that way because violence for a good purpose is part of their duty. Here, two terms are clearly mentioned. Vyadhyaya, for the purpose of killing, and asatam, those who are undesirable. The protecting energy of the king is supposed to be the energy of the Supreme Lord. In Bhagavad Gita 4:8, the Lord says, Praitranaya sadhunam vinashacha dushkritam. The Lord descends to give protection to the pious and to kill the demons. The potency, therefore, to give protection to the pious and kill the demons or undesirables is directly an energy from the Supreme. And the king, or the chief executive of the state, is supposed to possess such energy. In this age, it is very difficult to find such a head of state who is expert in killing the undesirables. Modern heads of state sit very nicely in their palaces and try without reason to kill innocent persons. Om Gyanatam Randasya Gyana Gyana Shalakaya Chakshuram Militam Yena Tasmai Shri Guve Namaha Shri Chaitanya Manobistam Stapitam Yena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Kadamayam Dadati Swapadantikam Vandeham Shri Guru Shri Yuta Parakamalam Shri Gurun Vaishnavamscha Shri Rupam Sagrajatam Sahagana Raghunatham Vitam Tam Sajivam Sadvaitam Savadutam Parijana Chaitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Shri Radha Krishna Padan Sahagana Lalita Shri Vishakan Vitamscha. Hey Krishna Karuna Sindhu Dinabandhu Jagatpate Gopisha Gopika Kanta Radha Kanta Namoshtite Tapta Kanchana Gorangi Radhe Vrindavaneshwari Rishabhanu Sutta Devi Pranamami Hiripriye Panchakalpatubhyascha Kripa Sindhubhyevacha Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha. Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shivasadi Gaur Bhaktivinoda. Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare. Thank you very much for inviting me. I'd like to say that I'm up here for my own purification, so hopefully in the process of my purification, you will all pray that maybe I can say something that is of practical benefit for you and your lives, as well as purifying for me. In these verses, we first see that Kardama Muni greets the king with obeisances, and then the king responds also with respects. I just wanted to say that respect is a very, very important aspect of our bhakti tradition. And the culture in India is a culture of respect. There's a whole culture set up of respect. We don't have such a culture like that in America, but you have this culture here. And I'd like to expand this theme of respect to another level. Lord Chaitanya says in his third Shikshastakam prayer, Trinadapi Sunichina Torora Pisahishana Amanina Manadena Kirtaniya Sadahari, that we really want to be humbler than a blade of grass, more tolerant than a tree, and ready and willing to offer all respects to others. And then in such a state of mind, that's a foundation for us to be able to really chant. Now, there is such a thing as external respect, and then there's such a thing as internal respect. And I'd like to say that in my experience, my own personal experience, I was able to respect others externally, but I didn't realize that I was neglecting to respect my own self. So just like Kardama Muni is honoring the king who's coming to his hermitage, Krishna has created each and every one of our souls. We're each an individual part and parcel of Krishna that Krishna personally made and created, and he didn't make a mistake. And now that soul and Krishna are both in our heart here. So this temple is a place of respect for the soul and the super soul. And yet often, at least in my experience and in my own personal life, and I imagine possibly, maybe for some of you, that we tend to neglect our own self, and we don't exactly know how to respect ourselves. And we do this on the basis of sometimes scripture. We take the scripture and say, oh, well, I'm not my body, so then I don't need to respect it because I'm not my body. However, the human form of life is a very special gift, especially in the middle planetary system. The human form of life is the demigods are waiting in line to take birth as a human being. The human form of life is also one of the most challenging and sometimes excruciating forms of life, because now we can be a little conscious of our suffering. So all living entities in the material world experience birth, death, old age, and disease to some degree. So there's a certain amount of suffering. However, the lower levels are kind of, their consciousness is a little dulled, so they're not really feeling the full power of the pain. But in the human form of life, we can perceive that full pain. Now, often we relegate that pain and we push it down. That only lasts so long. And we can push it down for quite a long time. However, in challenging times in our life, and if not throughout our life, at least at the time of death, all of that pain will come up into our consciousness. You know how they say that at the time of death, your life passes in front of you? Have you ever heard that? Well, guess what? Your life is passing in front of you right now. And it's passing in front of you slow enough so that you can actually do something about it. At the time of death, when the life flashes in front of you, you're like, oh my gosh, oh no, yeah, and it's, whoops. And then there may be some regrets. So we want to really pay attention because we are responsible for our consciousness. Like that's our primary responsibility in this life. No one else is going to take responsibility for our consciousness. No one else is going to develop our consciousness so that at the time of death, we're as much prepared as we can to go to our next place. That's our prime responsibility. However, in my life, and maybe in your life, sometimes we get distracted because we have a lot of energy when we're young, we have a lot of passion, and our minds are running really fast, and so we engage in service which keeps us busy, and that's not a bad thing. It's not a bad thing. We don't want to forget about this little part of Krishna in here. When Krishna says that he, wants us to take care of and serve the devotees, well, there's a devotee in here too. And if we don't take care of this devotee, then we're going to somehow be, maybe inadvertently or not straightforwardly, but we're going to be taking service from others, because this body, this mind, needs a certain amount of care. And it is our primary duty. So back to the topic of respecting ourselves. I didn't know how to respect myself, and I didn't have respect for myself, and I didn't know I didn't have respect for myself. I thought I was a good devotee, and if I think that I'm not very good and I'm fallen, that's a good thing. That means I'm humble. Maybe not. Low self-esteem and humility are not the same thing. Low self-esteem is connected with one of our false egos. Let me go back a little bit here. So, does anybody know what the first thing is that Lord Brahma creates in this material world? What's the first thing he creates? Somebody saying something? It's self-deception. He creates self-deception like a form of ignorance, because if he didn't, the soul would not be able to be here. This is not really a place of consciousness, and the soul is inherently conscious. Sat-Chit-Ananda, inherently. That's our nature. That's who we are. But to be in this world, we have to deceive ourselves that no, we're not that. Otherwise, we wouldn't be able to really be here. We came here for a reason, but and the first principle is self-deception. So the soul and the human machine, the soul and the super soul, they give us little indications, but covered by ignorance and self-deception, we misconstrue their messages. So when we come into this world and we're a little child, we're trying to figure things out. And when things happen that don't feel good, the soul says, something's not right here. And the material mind interprets that. Instead of understanding that I'm not in my constitutional place, the material mind perverts that, and it says, something is wrong with me. Something's wrong with me, and I'm not good enough. I am not good enough. I'm not smart enough. I'm not pretty enough. I'm not kind enough. And I'm not enough to please the world. And that's our first level of ignorance. That's our first level covering our soul. Now, we all have this little part of us. We all have a little part of us like that. And sometimes that part of us is a little stronger, and we think, oh, I'm so humble, I'm just so fallen, I'm so stupid, I'm so blah, blah, blah. And we think that's humility. However, when we identify with that part, we actually fortify it, and it's a lie. It's ignorance on top of the truth. Now, generally, we don't like to feel that we're bad. It doesn't feel so good. And so we adapt materially, and then we create another persona that's our good persona, and see how good I am, see how much I can produce, see how happy I am, see how funny I am, see how kind I am. And then that's kind of the persona we put forward, but deep inside we still feel this pained persona. Now, there's a few levels in there, which I talk about in my book here, but then on top of all of this, we realize there's some pain and suffering in this material world, so we come to Krishna consciousness. And then we get the absolute truth. Yes, it rings true, it makes sense, it's perfect, it's logical. Yes. And then we try to paste that truth on top of the lies that we tell ourselves. But the truth can't stick on top of a lie. It's like if you've ever had to attach something with tape. And if the surface is really dirty, you put the tape on, it might stick for a little bit, but it's going to fall off eventually. That's why they tell you before you try to adhere something, clean the surface, right? Similarly with Krishna consciousness, and I did this for almost 3 decades, I pasted Krishna consciousness on top. And then when it didn't stick, and then all the other stuff started being revealed to me, I was devastated. Wait a minute, I've been doing all the right things. I should be pure by now. What's happening here? And I really became very depressed and disappointed. But then Krishna really helped me to discover that I was under some misconceptions about what Krishna consciousness was. Krishna consciousness is about cleaning up the lies we've telling ourselves. Krishna consciousness is about clearing away, peeling the layers so that our true Satchidananda self can shine through. And we all have that. However, we can't find that if we believe the lies, if we believe that I'm so bad, or if we believe I'm pretty good here. Either one of those, both of those beliefs hide the truth that's inside of all of us. It's already there. Okay, so that's that part. And then I wanted to talk about the verse about protection and how the king, as representative of the Lord, is meant to protect the citizens. And that the king empowers those who are helping. And here it says he kills the demons. So we can transform that into dissipates the ignorance. Because to be a demon, you have to have a lot of ignorance. Because even demons have a soul. They're not really a demon, inside they're a soul. But we want to dissipate that ignorance. So it's talking here about how the king protects and how Krishna protects. So let's talk about protection a little bit here. So I'd like to say that when Krishna protects, he protects in different ways. So he protects the pious and he kills the demons. However, when Krishna kills the demons, he's actually protecting them. He's actually protecting them. Because in ignorance, a demon will create so much disturbance and create so many activities that actually harm others and harm himself or herself. The demon is not acting in its proper position. And so sometimes Krishna protects the demon by like, okay, enough, we gotta cut you off here. we need to reset this. Let's reboot here because what you're doing here isn't working and you're hurting yourself and you're hurting others. And Krishna, everything that Krishna does at every moment for every living entity is really all protection. Krishna only protects us. He's only trying to wake us up, Jeev Jago, to bring us to consciousness. Because Krishna loves us so much, he wants us to come back. And sometimes he wakes us up with a gentle shake, and sometimes he might pull the rug out from under us because we need to be shaken up. We're in a nightmare, we're in a really deep dream, and he needs to shake our world. And when Krishna shakes our world, sometimes we think, why isn't Krishna answering my prayers? Why doesn't Krishna like me? Why is Krishna being so mean? At least that's what I thought when he shook my world. And I was pretty angry. I wasn't very happy that he was shaking my world. And in my anger, I said, what do you want? I can't even kill myself, which is what I was contemplating because it was very frustrating. When Krishna shakes us up, we get really disoriented and we get confused. In retrospect, thank you so much, Krishna, for shaking my world, even though it felt very uncomfortable. Krishna was answering my prayers, just not in the way that I imagined. Sometimes we think when we say a prayer, oh, Krishna, please, give me humility. We think, oh yeah, he's just going to hand it to us and we're just going to insert it like a pen drive and we're humble, right? No, Krishna wants to develop our muscles. We're a living entity. We're not a computer with a pen drive. He wants to develop our muscles so that the humility is real and it's deep and it's sustainable, not that it's just surface level. So Krishna's always protecting us. Now let's go back to self-respect. I'm going to connect the two. We are the proprietor of this body and this mind, and we are the king, so to speak, the manager of this body and this mind. So how do we protect ourselves, and how do we respect ourselves? And how do we treat those aspects of ourselves that seem maybe not so nice, maybe some ignorance? How do we treat those parts? And here it talks about the king being violent. I'd like to say, in regards to our own self, I was quite violent with those parts of myself that I didn't like. You know, kind of beating myself up. Why are you like that? Stop doing that. Don't be angry. And kind of pushing down all that negative stuff, kind of squeezing it in a little closet and kind of trying to lock the door. But then I had to keep squeezing more stuff in there, and eventually the door wouldn't even shut. So, works temporarily, it's not sustainable. And I found that then when it started coming up, you know, beating myself up that I had all these unprocessed, you could call them negative, or you could call them that. Just maybe not so conducive to Krishna conscious qualities. Beating myself up. And then I discovered that that didn't really work, and I discovered that I was actually reinforcing this pained persona here that was covering my soul. I was actually feeding it, you know, and believing it, and it was kind of growing and becoming more solid. So then I discovered that, you know, compassion and being kind to myself, my real self, my soul self, down under here, and empowering the soul self gave me some energy to dissipate the lies, which is real protection. It's real protection, and I could then respect this part of myself. And instead of disrespecting this part of myself, oh my gosh, how could I do that? How could I say that? Little by little, when I noticed that my behaviors weren't lining up with my heart nature, I would practice new behaviors, and I would clean up my mistakes. If I said something that was harmful or hurtful, I would reflect on it and then clean it up. And in cleaning it up, then I didn't have to identify with this part of me, this pained part of me, because it was like, it's just a lot of little parts, so I just have to clean them up and move them aside, and then my real self can shine through. And this is, it takes time. That's why the process of Bhakti Yoga is a gradual process, because it's so subtle, and we sometimes take the voices of our personas and they mix with scripture, and then we justify them, which makes them harder. But little by little, as we dissipate the lies, the ignorance, the self-deception, little by little, piece by piece, day by day, our life is passing in front of us every day, every moment. When we notice, ooh, that didn't feel very good. Probably didn't feel very good for the other person. The sooner that we can clean it up, we can feel a little bit energized. We can feel a little bit like, okay, I'm getting in alignment. And then that makes us, that energizes us and empowers us to take on the next piece. However, if we say, oh, whatever, and we just let it go, the next time we see that devotee, maybe that we had that exchange with, it's like, we walk the other way. We can't look at them. We don't know what to say to them. Or we say, oh, hi, Bo Prabhu. Hi, Krishna. But there's still something inside. We can feel it because the soul feels. We're individual personalities with real feelings. And when we get in touch with our feelings, we become more real. So I usually leave a little time for questions and answers. This is a huge topic. I just kind of gave you a little introduction. It's what I've written about in these books. The first book is about the mind and the false ego, and the second book is about the anartas. And I've just kind of given names to things that are very subtle so that we can look at them and consider, what lies am I believing? And giving ways to maybe dissipate the lies in order to protect the soul inside. That's my real job, to protect the soul and to little by little start practicing new behaviors that shift my mentality so that my real soul self can start to act. So I wanted to know, this is kind of a big topic, but I wanted to talk about self-respect and about protection. When we don't understand how to truly respect and protect our own self, we can't truly respect another human being. We generally treat others the way we treat ourselves, generally. And when we learn to respect and protect ourselves, our real self, naturally we want to respect, because we understand how challenging it is to be a soul in the human machine. Oh my gosh, you're dealing with so much. I respect your endeavors. I respect your being in this body. I respect you taking on Krishna consciousness and really wanting to find the truth. And I respect your ups and your downs, because these are all part of our growth process. Otherwise, if we don't respect ourselves, we're not really in touch with how challenging it is to be in a human form of life. So if there's any questions or thoughts or corrections, I'd love to hear from you, because each one of you is a Mahatma. Each one of you has wisdom inside. So I want to hear from all of you. Any of you. Anyone. Please. Are we going to give you a mic? Okay. Hare Krishna.
Thank you so much for enlightening us. These are very subtle topics that is related to mind and intelligence. Bhante, I would like to know about the car actually.
Okay.
So in the first one we see that it seems like that Paramatma is speaking and the soul is not listening.
That's our normal state. The Paramatma is speaking, and we're pretty much on autopilot. We've got our programming and our conditioning, and it's like we're not aware that Krishna's talking to us, but he's talking to us all the time. Yep, yeah.
And the next one we see that yes, actually the Jiva is there. So is it, am I contemplating or is it the actual thing?
That was it. That's the, and notice on the second cover that the branch actually is growing, and on the first cover it's kind of dead. Yeah. Yeah. So, yeah, we want to grow. You know, Krishna is expanding eternally, right? Is that the truth? Krishna is expanding eternally? Well, if we're a part of Krishna, we need to start growing eternally too. Otherwise, how are we going to keep up? And right? That is our nature. It's our nature to grow. It's our nature to grow. Even Krishna asks the gopis, he does different things and he expands their love, even though they have the most love. He just, let's expand it a little more. And you think, how? But yeah. So, yes. Thank you. That was a good observation. I did put the explanation inside the cover just in case other people didn't understand, but yeah, you got it. Anybody else? Any thoughts, questions? There's one back there, please. Thank you. Hare Krishna. Hare Krishna.
The question is that you tell that we should have self-respect, like even if we do wrong, something we have fault, like we have some weaknesses. So but the thing is that if we come offenses, and if we keep on respecting, sometimes we should not be harsh. But then we sometimes say, like two things are inside us, one is good and one is bad.
Right.
So sometimes we should put it like, but I don't know the line in it, because if we say something do wrong, we should do pashchatap and feel bad for it also. But if we keep just say I want to clarify this, so how much we should move in it, because if we always think, okay, what can I do, I'm trying. And sometimes we can let loose the wrong thing actually by this process. So how should we move in that, so that both the things are right, so I just put more things.
Thank you for your question. I noticed you used the word should a lot. The word should is a very subtle way that we shame ourselves. Like, I'm not what I should be. I should do it. I shouldn't. And we hurt ourselves. So that word right there, if you could take that word out of your vocabulary, that would be the beginning of respecting. We are a soul. We're entrapped in a human machine. We've got a mind. The material energy is bombarding us faster and faster, and noise and pollution and people and our conditioning from our past. We're being bombarded. Let's have a little compassion on that soul dealing with a lot, right? And doing the best that we can in any given moment. And sometimes our best doesn't seem like, well, I'm not pure. Rather than perfection, let's try to look for a little connection. Okay, that little soul in there is trying its best. So when we see some kind of a mistake, or we think that we've made an offense, even if we think we've made an offense, we can just, in that moment, go and dissipate our offense. Just, I'm sorry, please forgive me for any offenses I've committed to you, even if they were mental offenses. We can go to a person and say that, and they might say, what are you talking about? Just, it's, my mind, and just, I just want to clear this from my consciousness, so, but if it's something that you physically did, or verbally did, then you might say, well, the other day, I kind of yelled, or I raised my voice, and I want to work on that. It's something I'd like to work on. So I'm sorry that I raised my voice. I just got a little upset, and I wasn't acting in my best interest, your best interest, or in alignment with my best nature. So little by little, and as we do that and hold ourselves accountable for how we're behaving, what we're saying, then we can even work on being accountable for what we're thinking, that's even another level. But when we can just be accountable for what we're saying and how we're behaving, little by little, we're empowering the soul. We're like, wait a minute, that was not in alignment with who I really am and who I really want to be. So how can I clean that up? And we do it day by day, but when we notice it, and if we don't notice it, and maybe we notice it 3 days later, we're like, oh yeah, he's not looking at me. Yeah, I think I was a little, oh yeah, I was like, oh yeah, that's right, I kind of like dissed him the other day, or something. Then we can recognize, and Krishna will help us. And it's really, really a little by little process. The other thing is, we want to acknowledge ourselves when we even take one little step. because each little step sometimes is excruciating for the ego, you know, to go and say, I was a little harsh with you. The ego doesn't like that. Doesn't feel good to the ego, because the pain persona is going to say, oh, you're so bad. So, but when we do that, we're actually saying, I am not you, and I am not you. I want to act in my best nature. And so we're kind of separating ourselves from our identification with those parts of us. And we're kind of shining a light on the illusion, the illusion, which is just a lie. It's not the truth. It's illusory. So when you shine a light on it, when you shine the light, it disappears. And so then we don't continue to identify with it. And so then we're kind of more identifying down here than this. And it is excruciating for the ego, because we do think we are what we think that we are. And we, you know, so it's a little by little process. So is that okay? Yeah. Yes, please. Thank you. You're welcome. Yes. Thank you. Okay. Audible.
Like in our movement, devotees become counselors, and as a whole, we see that more they are feeding their egos because they have followers, and when they receive appreciation, now the sense of following, that yes, there are people who are following me. So in a way, they are feeding their own egos sense of identity that yes, I'm so good, I'm so influential, or I'm so nice.
Yeah.
So. And for that, they also give a regular premium of some spiritual knowledge.
Mm-hmm.
I give you spiritual knowledge, you keep feeding my ego.
Yeah.
And as soon as, like, all the preachers, sometimes they have to act as primary teacher, and then some other preacher can act as secondary teacher, secondary primary teacher, and then they don't hire secondary teacher, like that. But this primary teacher becomes so attached and feels so hollow and shallow as soon as the devotees, the students, move on to next level for understanding. So he's not able to give this good farewell to them, that okay, that was my duty, I did my primary education part, go ahead, all the very best. Because he's getting his token of fulfillment.
Yes.
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 My followers.
Yes.
My followers, I am,
Yes.
I am my followers. And then with the wave of time, as these followers, as they move on, it hurts them, even to the extent they start weeping. So how to rectify this situation?
Very interesting question. First of all, I'd like to say that these persons are doing the best they can. And they probably don't have very much self-respect. They don't know how to respect themselves. So they got to get it from the outside. But when you get it from the outside and you try to put it inside, there's a big hole, because you don't really respect yourself. So you put it in, and it goes out. Because you don't believe it, right? So then you got to get more, and you got to get more. Now, I only know this because that's what I did for 3 decades. You try to fulfill yourself from the outside, while inside you've got a big hole, and everything goes down, and so then you need to keep grabbing for more. However, when you do learn to have self-respect, it's like you create a true holding tank. So let's say we all have the holding tank, okay? It's like, let's say it's like a bathtub, because it's a big tank Krishna gives us. And when we have no self-respect, the drain, the plug is out. So we try to get from the outside, and it goes down the drain. When we learn how to have self-respect, we put the plug in, and then every little tiny piece of respect. And also we learn how to respect ourselves. Okay, yeah, that wasn't so cool. Let me try to say that in another way, and then we say that in another way, and then we celebrate. We celebrate, not like patting ourselves on the back that was great, but we celebrate, wow, I practiced something new. Previously, I wouldn't have done that. And so we appreciate ourselves and we appreciate our own efforts. And then little by little, the tub fills up. And it's so full because the soul is really full. And it's so full that there's just, if you appreciate me, I can appreciate you because I'm so full. But if the plug's not in, we need to feel fulfilled. No one wants to feel useless and worthless. But if I believe somewhere deep, deep inside that pained persona that I'm worthless and useless, and I don't know, and I believe it, it's a lie, then I'm kind of forced to fulfill myself from the outside. But that's also a very painful process because it's not sustainable. And then when people leave and they don't appreciate me, I cry because I so much need that. I need that love, and I need it, and I don't know how to give it to myself. So it's that's what it is. So that's why self-respect and self-care is so important. We put that plug in, and then we have a holding container, and we have so much more to give. It's like recharging your battery, So does that make sense? I did it for decades.
Mataji, one more thing is that, since the nature of Kaliuga is that we are so much into sense enjoyment, and more we are into sense enjoyment, more we are susceptible to get hurt. We are very hurtable. And because people in Kaliuga are so hurtable, they are so touchy, it becomes a great struggle to even help somebody, because that help also is taken otherwise. So, because people are so sensitive, hypersensitive.
Yes.
So even help is taken as, this person has been pointing me, has been pointing my hollows and shallows. And so that's why we fear sometimes even to help somebody, although it is very painful to see somebody falling, but you can't also help because his body is not ready to take help, because even help hurts.
Yeah.
So,
Do you know why help hurts? Because if you're helping me, it kind of reinforces that I'm kind of helpless and I need you to help me. It kind of reinforces that belief that I'm worthless, I'm helpless, I'm stupid, I don't know what to do, and you need to tell me what to do. So I've taken our practice rather than, we do want to help. It's our natural that we don't want to see others suffer. So that's kind of natural. But rather than using the word help, we could transform it into maybe being curious, just being there for others, supporting others in their own self-discovery. You really want, like everybody has the soul inside. They have the potential to have realizations. So what can I do to help reveal the truth to them so that they can see it? And sometimes that comes more by questions than by answers. So if I ask you a question and I cause you to think and reflect, you could come up with your own answer that might be the same as mine, but because you came up with it yourself, because I asked a question that would maybe stimulate that, but you came up with the answer, and then I say, wow, see, there you go, you got the answer. It's right there inside of you. Oh, then that person feels a little self-respect in that moment, and they feel a little empowered. And it is very tricky, but because we all got this pain persona, but how to empower others to understand that their own power. It's very subtle. Yeah, but that was a good question. Is it okay to go on a little longer? Okay, thank you.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
Thanks a lot. This is the next level of teaching what we're trying to go under. It's in Krishna consciousness, but at the same time we do not realize this is Krishna conscious also. This is the next level of understanding what we're trying to do. It's very deep inside.
We're diving in, yeah.
But I have a question myself. The one question is, we try to put rules and regulations, and I try to put the rule and regulation, at the same time I try to put it for others. But when it comes to follow for myself, I get hurt.
You get hurt when?
When someone says that...
Oh, when someone tries to tell you a rule and regulation?
You're not doing it.
Oh, okay.
I get hurt.
Right.
So, I only try to put the rule and regulations for others, but not for myself. This is something, again, inert thing what we try to have, that we're not able to realize that what I am trying to put, the rule and regulations also for myself. I think, okay, I am senior. How can he ask me? I am out of everything. Whatever I only do it for others, but for myself, it's all an exception. I have to get everything whatever I ask for. So, this is also part of the egoistic nature what we have in ourselves. How do we overcome that ego to ensure that we can also have the self-respect in ourselves, at the same time we can respect others?
Well, we have to understand our ego first. If we don't understand it, how can we deal with it? How can you deal with something that's invisible? How do you relate to it? How do you, you have to make it visible. You want to make it visible. That's what these books talk about, how to make that visible. Now, rules and regulations create a structure. They create like a foundation on which we can grow. But if the rules and regulations become like a cement cell, we might not feel like there's enough room to grow. So rules and regulations are more like a foundation on which we build. And each individual is different. So we set the foundation, and then really it's important for us as individuals to really work on ourselves. The more we work on ourselves, the more we can really be there as a support for others. What's the best thing we can do to help others is to be Krishna conscious. But to be Krishna conscious, that's a deep, 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 deep ocean, right? So is how am I being Krishna conscious, and how am I reinforcing my ego? How am I respecting myself? How am I holding myself accountable? And how am I reinforcing my ego? We self-sabotage a lot. It's actually the design of the material nature. Samsara is self-sustaining. The material energy. So we do things and we grab and we try to, you were talking about sense gratification, right? We grab for material things to fulfill our inner soul. Material things can never fulfill our soul, but we grab, we keep trying to, grab. But then it actually, there's the explanations in the book, it actually perpetuates, oh, I'm really so bad. And there we go again. We're in the cycle again and again. We want to break the cycle. But first of all, we have to recognize, what am I doing to self-sabotage? So holding yourself accountable, and I see you're very serious, and you really want to get this. You have a strong desire inside of you. I can see it on your face. And at the same time, I'm imagining there's some pain inside that you haven't, fully come to terms with. And so you have like a protective barrier. Like you said, you get hurt when people come and that's a symptom that there's pain inside. And they're just sticking a little needle in and a little of the pain is coming out. So as you start recognizing not just your strong parts, but your pained parts. And you go down, because when we heal the lowest level, the pain over top of the soul, when we heal the pain, we don't need the compensation for the pain. Can you understand that? The pain is the foundation for the other levels. But when you dissipate that lie, you don't need to tell the other lies, because the other lies are trying to cover that. So when you get to the pain and you really contend with it, it's painful to be in this material world. It's excruciating. It's frustrating. It's overwhelming. And we have no compassion for ourselves. It's not easy. It's not easy just to be in a human machine. What to speak of a human machine that says, I'm going to declare war against the material energy. I am going to get out of this material world. Now you're really in for it, right? And that's what you've all done. So peace, be compassionate. It's not easy. Day in and day out, and we don't take care of this part of us. How much can we give without feeling exhausted? We need to sustain and nourish ourselves deeply. That means we need to understand ourselves. Did I touch it a little bit?
Yeah, sure. But the other question is,
Okay.
how do we try to understand one more thing? Like what, for example, I only paint myself being good for others.
You paint yourself?
I paint myself to be good for others.
Yes.
At the same time, I'm not good for him.
Okay.
I'm not good for him at all. I'm trying to just act as if I'm trying to be good.
Okay.
And I'm trying to help. But whereas I have ill feelings saying that, he should not, I should not do anything for him. So how do we try to realize that? Because the realization of saying that I'm trying to help, I'm sure in front of everybody I'm saying that I'm helping him, everybody understands, okay, he's very helpful. But innerly, myself, I understand. I'm supposed to keep his eyes.
I'm supposed to.
I'm supposed to kick him out. I'm not supposed to elevate. I'm not supposed to do anything wrong. So what do I do that?
Well, we'll have to talk about this after the class because it sounds kind of specific. However, okay. But I want to say that you have an awareness there. You want to look at that awareness. That awareness is giving you information. That's inside of you. That's real information. Now something's not right here. Now, again, we create this society and we're supposed to be servants, serve. So we're almost reinforcing help. But then we think, I'm a helper and you need help, and I'm a helper and you need help. So neither of those things are true on one level. So me thinking I'm a helper, hey, I'm in the same boat as you are. So let me work. Every time I work on myself, it helps me to be with others. It gives me the ability to connect and understand another person's circumstance. And when another person feels understood, they can start to understand themselves. And when they start to understand themselves, then they can work with themselves a little bit better. So it's really about understanding. We don't understand our subtle body very much at all. It's kind of like, oh yeah, I have a false ego, but it's kind of like the tip of the iceberg. Oh yeah, there's a little ego there. The iceberg is like 90% is under the water. So 90% is kind of relegated to our unconsciousness. So these are all really deep topics. I talk about all of them in these books. And I just really tried to, just download whatever Krishna has shown me in a systematic way that it kind of gives a little openings to understand our machinery better. Like that, kind of like a... So I don't want to go too much longer. I really appreciate all your time and your attention, and how much all of you are really working to come to that deeper level. And it's an honorable and noble process. Just don't go off the path. And whatever's happening is Krishna's protection. He's waking you up. It's like, something's not right here. Let's look at that. What is it? Does that make sense? Yeah. So thank you so much. And after the class, I'll be over here and available, if anybody needs anything. For the set, it's 800 rupees, 700 pages altogether. Took a couple years.
Okay. So 800 rupees, 800 रुपए की ये दो बुक्स हैं. Part 1 है blue color में, and this all-in-one is part 2. So first copy I am taking from Mataji, autographed by her.
You want me to autograph it here on the stage? Can we do it after the class?
Yeah, so class is up.
But I want to have a completion. I want to say thank you so much, everyone. All glories to Srimad Bhagavatam. All glories to Srila Prabhupada, who's given us Srimad Bhagavatam. All glories to Srila Prabhupada, who's made this ISKCON society to support us. Jai, Jai Srila Prabhupada. Jai, Jai. Jai. Jai.
So we are so much grateful to Mataji. Mataji is very expert in really entering the consciousness and doing the operation without anesthesia.
No, compassion is the anesthesia. Compassion is the anesthesia.
Compassion is the answer. So Mataji is having compassion for all of us. So let's say our gratitude to Mataji by chanting Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. So Lakshmi, would you be helping? Okay. So first copy I would request Mataji kindly give a blessing.
I will sign. I'm gonna sit down here.
Well, you can be here and you can autograph. Yeah,
It's okay?
yeah, absolutely fine.
All right. I have to find my pen here. I do have a pen.
You can take my pen.
I got it. Oh, your pen's probably right smoother than mine. Are they smooth pens? Are they like really easy pens? So I got to give you change.
That's okay, Mataji. The rest is donation.
So I do have one copy that's open if you want to.
These are open, man.
I know. These are your copies.
That's okay, fine.
All right. So you got to spell your name please so I get it.
Amogh Leela Das. AMOGH LILA
Das?
Das. Service. You take it. You take it from me. I am temporary. No, you got 1,000 copies. अच्छा वो ऐसा यहाँ पे ले लो 2 कॉपीज ठीक है और ले लो ठीक है 3,000 तो मैं लेके आया
और एक मुद्दा है क्या?
तो 800 और इसमें so we can have it huh?
It was like
हाँ जा
Is the Leela part of, is it like small L or is it big
That's only
L?
one is all.
But is it small or big? That?
That's only one is all.
Okay.
It should come from your hand. That's
Yeah,
it.
one of each.
Sorry. Two more sets. One him, one him.